So this video is going to focus on arc length, which is a very minor topic in trig, and it's something out of section 5.1. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because you only have a few questions in your homework that apply to this. But arc length is something that basically just uses the general properties of a circle. So if we have a circle with a radius drawn in, right, a point from the center to the edge of the circle, and we pick any angle, right, so this would be our angle theta. We can use our angle and our radius to help us figure out what the arc length is. And this would be the arc length, which is usually represented by the letter S. Okay, so it's the distance around the circle that is cut by the angle. And the formula that relates all three of those things together, arc length equals the radius times theta, whatever theta happens to be. Now, one of the most important things about this arc length formula is that theta is always in radians. Okay, so we've done a lot of work with degrees so far. Arc length is always done in radians. So let's look at a few examples of how you would use this. One thing that you can use this for is to actually find the arc length, to find S. So it'll say something like, find S if, let's say our radius is 12 inches and theta is pi over 4. Okay, so we have our measure in radians. If we're going to use our formula, we would have S equals R times theta. S is what we're looking for. R is 12 inches. And theta is pi over 4. Now, with these questions, they usually do not ask you for an exact value. So you can literally plug this into your calculator. 12 times pi divided by 4. And actually use your pi button, so 12 pi over 4, to get a decimal answer. Our arc length here would be 9.42, and the unit would be inches. Okay, so it's just a matter of plugging into the formula. Okay, so that's that first example. We're going to look just at one other example because these are pretty straightforward. So let's say for our second example, find the arc length if the radius is, let's do 9 yards, and theta is 315 degrees. Okay, so the first thing that you should notice is that theta is in degrees, not radians, so we're going to have to convert that first. Okay, to change theta from degrees to radians, we take our angle and we multiply it by pi over 180 degrees, which gives us 315 pi over 180. And then if you were to simplify that, you could find some common factors, right? Or use your calculator button or your fraction button on your calculator. 315 degrees is the same thing as 7 pi over 4. Okay, so that becomes the angle that we're using for this problem. I can erase these. Plug in my new values for this problem. R is 9 yards. Theta is 7 pi over 4. And again, you can just plug that into your calculator. 9 times 7 pi divided by 4. And we get our arc length is 49.48. And the units are going to stay the same, yards. Okay, And that would be our answer for that problem. Okay, so that's the arc length formula, and that's solving it for S to find the arc length. There are other problems where you're given the arc length and the radius, and you're asked to find theta. Okay, so we could also look at an example of a problem like that. Okay, so let me erase this. So this could be something like, we'll do this in black. Find the measure of the central angle, which just means theta. Find theta if the radius is 10 inches and the arc length is 40 inches. So again, I use the same formula, S equals R theta. S in this case, the arc length is 40 inches. R, the radius, is 10 inches. Theta is what I'm looking for. To get theta by itself, divide both sides by 10 inches. And we find that theta is equal to 4 radians. And that would be my answer. Really, the only thing that maybe gets a little bit more complicated or makes it a little bit trickier is if your radius and your arc length are not the same unit. In order to use this formula, they have to be the same unit. So S and R have to be the same unit. Okay. As an example, let me erase this. If they told you that your radius is 1 meter and your arc length is 400 centimeters, before you can do the problem, you have to be sure to change one of these so that they are both in the same unit. Right? We could say that arc length is 400 centimeters, which is 4 meters, and use that. So then we would have S equals R theta, 4 meters equals 1 meter times theta. And again, you're going to get the same answer, 4 radians. Or we can convert 1 meter, and we can say R is 1 meter, which is 100 centimeters. And the only thing that would change is this would become 400, and this would become 100. Okay, so that's arc length. It's a very simple formula. It's not anything you need to memorize, but you will see a couple of questions on that on your homework.